Module 3 Key Concepts. Problem amnesia, or why it's really important to keep a journal. There's this crazy thing that happens with tapping, and it's really kind of funny. It's kind of like this. Let's say that out of the blue, your pinky finger starts hurting. You've got some weird pain there, and it's driving you crazy, and that's all you can think about. Maybe it bothers you for 3 days straight. It's not so bad that you need to go to the doctor, it's just a weird little pain. What's that all about? And then on the fourth day, you wake up and it's disappeared. Okay, later that day, or the next, or 2 weeks later, you may have forgotten that you ever had that pain in your pinky finger. It's just not there anymore, and it's out of your awareness and your thoughts. Now fast forward 3 or 4 weeks, and you'll hardly remember that the pain ever existed. Once the pain is gone, we tend to forget. It's ridiculously common. It's the nature of our thoughts. Maybe your partner reminds you a couple months later about that weird pain you had in your pinky finger, and you can't even remember you had the pain. You're like, what pain? It was a fleeting thing. This happens all the time with tapping. Believe it or not, it actually happens on really big issues. It's such a common phenomenon that there's a term for it in the tapping world. We call it the apex effect. I like to call it problem amnesia. It's when the client can't remember that there was ever an issue or problem or that it was that bad. I've had clients who have had baskets of fears and anxieties that were so severe that they were keeping them from fully living, even preventing them from some normal tasks that you and I take for granted. And I remember one case in particular that my client came in for a session wanting to work on something new. And when I brought up his fear of death, he brushed it off, saying that he didn't remember he ever had that problem. In fact, he said, "I'm not afraid of death." Where do you get that from? Well, my jaw almost hit the floor. I pulled out my notes from a session we had about 6 months prior. We'd spent the entire session on that fear. He had an intensity rating of 10 out of 10 on that fear, or in his words, 20 out of 10 at that time. It had been a fear that had been keeping him from so many things and was part of his anxiety attacks. He was in disbelief that we worked on it. It was that far gone in his memory and reality that he couldn't even remember that it was an issue. The work can be that profound. What may seem like the most intense issue that ever existed for you, something that you know will never budge, may end up after tapping to become something so far in the past that you don't even recall that it was a problem. How neat is that? Once you clear an issue, you don't necessarily get to the opposite of that issue. Let's say you have a fear of flying. Your goal is not necessarily to become a pilot and love flying, or to become an air flight attendant, or to be in ecstasy when you're flying. The whole point is to get to a neutral place about it, where it's a non-issue. And when it becomes a non-issue, your whole thought field changes. It isn't in your head anymore. It's not running anymore. It's not in your consciousness. It's not in your awareness. When that happens, it's amazing. This thing that had been so large in your awareness is no longer running the show or clouding your thoughts. It's not holding you back any longer. It's not causing you stress and trauma and pain anymore. Suddenly, it's not there, and then you forget you ever had it. And that's a beautiful gift because it gives you freedom.